I feel lonely deep inside, and I wanna talk about it. Can I trust you on my side? Cause I wanna talk about it. Can you keep a secret? Keep a secret. Can you keep a secret? Keep a secret. Can you keep a secret? I wanna trust you. I wanna trust you. So can you keep my secret? You see this road?
All right, welcome back. And of course, we are dealing with a very serious issue here. And let's welcome Miss Juanita M. Headley. And she is an attorney at law and, of course, an advocate for, changing cases. And, of course, she has a book to launch, Can You Keep a Secret? But first of all, let's talk. And, of course, this individual is no stranger to Rise and Shine. You've been here before. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And you've been busy since the last time you were here, which was about roughly
2 years ago.
So what you've been up to?
I've been doing a lot of traveling by the grace of God, but it's all been voluntary. I've been doing human trafficking talks around the world. I have been educating and empowering people on the issue of human trafficking and abuse. And I've also been spending time volunteering in orphanages and shelters for victims and survivors of exploitation.
All right, so let's come to this reality of human trafficking that we take for granted. It's a big industry. You've been all over the world. I've seen you've been to London, varying parts of the United States, the Philippines, lecturing and speaking to the reality of this evil that is stalking humankind. And particularly, let's zoom in on sex traffickers or the exploiters of individuals that are trafficked for sex, the sex market. Let's talk about that. And where is the most, or what's the largest percentage of humankind trafficking for that purpose?
Well, the statistics say that human trafficking is one of the top criminal industries compared to drugs and compared to weapons, because with a person, you can sell them multiple times. And so we have to understand that human trafficking, it's not necessarily a person being transported from one country to another. It is not necessarily somebody being kept in a cage. There are individuals who are trafficked, and they actually go to school, college, or university. And so it may look like prostitution on the surface, when in fact it is indeed human trafficking. And we even have individuals who have been sold for sex by their family members. And so therefore, you could have a person who is born, brought up in Port of Spain, grows up, goes to school there, and their parents or even peers at school traffic them. And the sad reality is in TT, a lot of people focus on immigration and Venezuelans, but realistically speaking, trafficking is going on irrespective of immigration. If we think about it, let's take ourselves to China for a moment. If we are both in China, we would stand out like a sore thumb. Therefore, a trafficker would be better off trafficking a Chinese person in China than one of us, because we stand out. And if the police came and raided a brothel and we were there, then we wouldn't be able to communicate, we wouldn't be able to explain what we're doing there. But if we were Chinese and spoke the local dialect, we could say, this isn't a brothel, this is my boyfriend. And you have to realize traffickers and pimps, they're very good at what they do, and they go undetected because they know exactly how to work the system.
All right, let's go to some of the poorest countries in the world where sexual exploitation is part of the culture, should we say. Nepal, for example, and varying parts of India, where children are sold early into sex slavery. Based on your travels, have you exploited or have seen firsthand some of these cases, maybe in the Philippines and some of the most poorest communities in the world? Where have you seen these actual activities taking place, and what are you advocating for, given your links internationally?
Well, I've seen women being sold for sex, particularly in the Philippines, in Vietnam. In India, I've not yet been to the sex industry there, so I have seen prostitutes in India. Typically in India, they're dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. In India, the costume, the clothing, I'd say not costume, but the clothing they wear is sari or very fully dressed. And so when you see an individual, not necessarily in Delhi, but in another part of the country, more rural, dressed like that, wearing makeup, lipstick, not always, but on occasion, those women are prostitutes. And because of their attire, that's how they stand out. On one occasion, I saw a woman, this woman was wearing her night clothes outside, and she had on makeup, and immediately I knew she was a prostitute. Not necessarily because of how she was dressed, but because of where we were. We were in an area known for sex trafficking, known for prostitution. And this woman was wearing her night clothes. In India, people don't wear their night clothes on the street. It was a very long gown to her ankles, but just the way she was dressed, straight away we knew that. In the Philippines, when I go to the red light district, I see women, men, girls, and boys being sold for sex by customers. Some of them are coming from poverty. Some of them were offered a job, and that job, which was not a restaurant, was indeed a sex club. I've worked with some of the girls, survivors, who have been sold into exploitation. When I'm in the red light district, it's really heart-rending to see these women being purchased. And then there's a section in the red light in Angeles, Pampanga, where there are ladyboys. This is where it's a man who's dressed in women's clothing. They're in one section of the red light. You walk a little bit further, and that's where you have underage children. And I've spent time with these children, and they sit there, and the way that they behave, the way that they dress is to entice customers. And there's an African-American man who would come to the Philippines every year, and he would have sex with this underage girl. And I developed a relationship with her. I talked to her, and I sat and observed the customer come over and talk to her, and she looked about 16, and I heard she was 13. And sometimes it's their parents who are selling them.
Yes.
The parent is indeed a pimp, but the fact is it's their parent. And this is the reality, and it happens around the world. Even in Trinidad, there was a case about a year ago of a young girl who's crying, I believe on Facebook, saying how her mum was selling her into prostitution. That would indeed count as human trafficking.
Very good. All right. So let's identify another area of human trafficking, which is donor for you're trafficked for donors. Organs, for organs rather. How prevalent is that as opposed to the sex trafficking, the sex slavery and the exploitation and so on? Where does that fit in from a statistical from the standpoint as what's the percentage rather as opposed to the sex trafficking?
With regards to organ trafficking, organ donor, I don't have stats for that, but what I can say is that it is not as prevalent. However, in China, it is a big issue, especially with this virus that's going around right now. And I've heard recently, having attended an event in England on global human trafficking, that this organ thing is a huge problem. And they're taking organs of particularly people who are religious, particularly Christian, and those who are being thrown in jail. So somebody could be in jail for their religion or some other reason, and they're taking their organs. And it is a massive issue. It is not just in China, but China is known for that. There are sometimes people who are brought from one country to another. Maybe they're brought into the UK. They're offered money for their organ. That indeed is organ trafficking. Sometimes the person doesn't get the money for it, or sometimes the person is offered money and then they receive a lesser amount. But compared to sex trafficking, it is not as prevalent because realistically speaking, unfortunately, a lot of men want to have sex with women or young girls. And so it's an industry that is prevalent around the world. In Amsterdam, we have shops where the women stand inside these shops, look like dolls, and they sell sex. And a lot of people believe the women choose this lifestyle. From my understanding, these women do not choose it. 95% upwards of prostituted women were sexually abused as a child. So when you understand that, you'll say, you know what, I don't think she chose it, I think it chose her. Because I've had clients who've been sexually abused through childhood, raped as an adult, worked in a sex club, maybe got involved in pornography, and then prostituted themselves as a form of empowerment. Now, I know that's not empowerment, but that's what they believe. It's been taken for free, so why don't I empower myself by selling my body?
All right, let's examine, and of course we get to the launch of this book, Can You Keep a Secret? Let's examine your own life, why you chose this path to bring the information to the public, to expose this industry that of sex exploitation in particular. Why have you chosen this pathway?
Honestly, I feel like the pathway chose me. Around 4 years ago, I was brought to Tobago by some individuals in the US for the purpose of speaking on human trafficking at a conference. They assisted me to be here. They made the platform for me to share with lawyers and judges. And as a result of that, I decided I wanted to do that a little bit more. So I spent some time in Trinidad. I spoke. When I speak, I do it unpaid. I don't charge for what I do. I receive donations. I'm a born-again Christian, and so as a result of my faith in Jesus, I type 10% of everything that I get. I've been unemployed for 8 years. I've been volunteering full-time around the world for 8 years. All the money I've ever received from TT has enabled me to keep coming back to your country. So literally, I was born here 4 years ago by some people, spoke at a conference, and I've been coming back ever since. My family are from Jamaica. I'm English born, so I don't have any ties to this country. But I feel that there are people here who want to hear what I have to say. There are platforms like here where I can share and educate the nation, not just a small group of people. I've been sharing around the world, but TT has stolen my heart. Although I'm not from here, my family are Caribbean, and when I'm here, I feel like I've come home. The reason I do what I do, besides my faith in Jesus, is I was a victim of childhood sexual abuse from 4 to 10 by my mother's first husband. A lot of people don't know my story because my story is irrelevant. I was a survivor. My past did not dictate the future. I'm now a U.S. lawyer. I'm not a prostitute or promiscuous. But for me personally, despite what I went through, I believe that it still affected my life today, but I took that negative and did something positive with it. What a lot of people don't understand, when you've been a victim of abuse, it can affect you 10, 20, 30 years later. And so I decided to educate people by sharing my own story so they understand not every child who's abused is threatened. I was abused sexually in my sleep. My stepfather did not communicate to me because I was supposedly sleeping. In the daytime, he was nice. I tried to educate people that good touch, bad touch is not enough because my mother taught me that. I believe a lot of children have that conversation, good touch, bad touch, but it is more than that. I believe we need to talk about grooming. My stepfather, who's deceased, he did not experience any form of prosecution in the eyes of the law. He was my best friend. Why? Because I was groomed. Grooming is when somebody prepares you. When you get ready for school or work, you're being prepared. He groomed me by letting me stay up late, giving me candy. When I was sexually abused at 4, it started with tickling, and then it progressed on from there. But he abused me in my sleep. And so I want people to understand that it is not just that a child is threatened or attacked or that it's a stranger. Quite commonly, it's somebody that you know. And when you've been groomed, you often will not disclose. And so I wrote my book, Can You Keep a Secret? Because when I was being abused, I tried to disclose my secret by asking the question, can you keep a secret? And the response is the reason why I said nothing until the abuse had stopped.
Very good. All right, so what we're going to do now, we're going to continue. Time, we were supposed to take a break, but we're going to continue up until the end, all right? All right, so let's get to the book. Of course, you have given us, leading up to this book, Can You Keep a Secret? Now, let's talk about what you've been through, is what drove you or inspired you to write this book. So tell us, what is the message in this story, in this book?
The book provides tips, identifiers, signs, and indicators if your child has been abused, and what you need to do if a child discloses. It also explains more in detail about human trafficking. I've been giving presentations in TT for 4 years. What I decided to do is to take everything that I know and learn and put it in a book, because not always the information is retained. I have been to some platforms, churches and schools more than once. Maybe there was a year between my visit. And when I've asked the question again, can you keep a secret? People who said yes the year before change their response and say no, or it depends. And I realized something is wrong, because despite me sharing my own story, it's like the information hasn't sunk in. For me, I believe it's an important question. What's quite sad is that, for me personally, my opinion, when you're a teacher or you're a therapist, when a child comes to talk to you, you say to them, whatever you tell me today, if it will harm you or someone else, I have to disclose that. And I have issue with that. Why? Because once you've made that statement, that child will not confide in you, in my personal opinion. Because I've had therapy before, unfortunately it didn't work, and I confided in them many years later. But the point is, if I talk to you, let's say you're a friend of mine, and you say, Juanita, anything you tell me, if it's going to harm you or somebody else, I will have to disclose that. I would become frightened and fearful, and I would not confide in you. I understand the law. I respect the law. The law is there for a purpose. If I was a therapist or a teacher, I would abide by the law. So the advice I give in my book is outside of teaching, outside of counseling. I'm not telling people to break the law, but I'm talking about, let's say you have a friend, a child, niece, nephew, and they come up to you outside of your profession. When they say, can you keep a secret? You need to say yes. When you say yes, they will tell you their secret. Once you've heard the secret, then you decide what to do. But before you do anything, you tell that person, I have to break your trust, and then you call the authorities. You don't call the accused. You don't call my stepfather. Hi, Tony, I heard you've been sexually abusing Juanita. He's going to deny it and hide the evidence. At the end of the day, the police have a job to do, and you allow them to do their job by calling the authorities. The sad reality in the Caribbean, quite often when we hear of cases of abuse in the family, it stays in the family. And nothing ever happens. And when you do that, you allow the perpetrator to abuse again and again and again. And that is an issue.
All right, so let's talk about the book launch as we are getting close to where you intend to launch this book and how can we be a part of this launch.
My launch will be taking place on Saturday, the 15th of February, which is the day after National Singles Day. So for those people who are single like me, it's called National Singles Day. The day after that, on Saturday, at the Shogunas Mayor's Office, Shogunas Borough Corporation in Trinidad, from 7 p.m., I'll be launching my book. It's completely free of charge to attend. My desire is to entertain, educate, and empower. It is not going to be a boring book launch. My first book launch was in Ghana, in Africa, and we had singing and poetry. We did not have any reading from the book because I wanted to entertain, and that's my desire here in Trinidad. And then on Monday, I'll be screening a movie on human trafficking in Tobago, and then Tuesday in Trinidad. So Monday, Tobago, Tuesday, Port of Spain, Movie Town. Both events start at 6:30. So Monday, Tobago, Tuesday, Port of Spain, Movie Town. People can find out more about that by contacting me on my Facebook, which is Changing Cases, Changing, C-A-S-E-S, on my website, changingcases.org, or they can WhatsApp me on 740-1008. 740-1008.
All right. Where will this book be available? In Tobago, or is it on Amazon? Where do we have to get this?
The book will become available on Amazon, so I want people to reach out. This is my book. Reach out to me. It's 200 TT for the book. 60% of the money will be used to build a bakery and orphanage.
Where?
So it's all charitable. I intend to build one in England and, of course, one in TT. As I'm a British citizen, it's easy for me to get funding in England for English initiatives. But my desire is to open a bakery with open hiring policy around the world, hiring former prostitutes, homeless people, and ex-convicts. I believe in second chances. And in a place like New York, once you've committed a felony conviction, you cannot get free housing, food stamps, or health care. So you keep committing crimes. It is a system, in my opinion, set up for the black and brown people to fail. In the US, Ben & Jerry's have an ice cream factory where they make brownies. Every single employee in the brownie factory is an ex-convict. Ben & Jerry's are successful because they hire on the basis of skills. Just because somebody has committed a crime does not mean that they do not want to make an honest living. And I want to help the marginalized people.
Just stay there 1 minute. Where is the support base for you? And you on your own, you'll tell us about whether you have an organization, whether it's, tell us about the support. Because I'm sure there are celebrities out there in the film industry, in the movie industry, who want to contribute to what you have just pointed to. The system is set up to have repeat offenders continue to repeat. You as an attorney would know and to speak to that. But let's talk about collaborations and support that you may be seeking, or are you, in terms of getting the necessary help to transition into bringing these visions to reality in terms of the bakery and all of that?
For me, I have a website and people can donate through that channel. I've been doing this work 8 years alone. I have my own grassroots organization that's in the process of being registered, but I am fully volunteer and unpaid. I've been doing this now for 8 years. And people ask, how do you survive? By the grace of God and complete strangers who host me, transport me, and feed me. At the end of the day, I believe in helping others. Some people don't understand my story or testimony, and they're like, well, you need to have your finances all in order. The way that I see it, my bucket is half empty. I don't have a lot, but I've been able to do so much with very little. And so I do need support. I need volunteers. For me, I believe money requires accountability. So I'm not seeking money, I'm seeking support. I want to build a bakery. Maybe somebody has a plot of land. Maybe they have bricks and mortar. Maybe they have a team. At the end of the day, when money exchanges hands, questions will be asked. But if I want a bakery, I don't need money for that. I just need a property, a premises, land. I need a license. I need a team of people. This is all I need. So yes, I need support, and money will enable that to happen. But realistically, money comes, money goes. For me, I need support. And so if people want to support me, they can certainly reach out and contact, because I believe I have a great initiative, a lot of passion, but there's no money in the bucket, just passion and determination.
All right, Ms. Edley, they're giving me the wind-up, but it's indeed a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
I want to wish you all the best. Of course, your book launch, and we have to access the book on Amazon, yeah?
It's available on Amazon, but it will be here in Tobago and Trinidad at the book launch, which will be on Saturday, Shagona's office in Trinidad, Monday, Movie Town, Tobago, Tuesday, Movie Town, Port of Spain.
All right, all
Thank
the best
you.
to you, and I admire your spirit, and of course, and I wish all this of success, given that there are issues out there that needs addressing where it concerns human trafficking and so on. There's so much evil out there, and here it is, a do-gooder, a heroine is here to rescue some of these women. All right, all the best to you. All right, at this point in time, we go for, well, that's the end of this morning's show, and we want to thank you for listening and for viewing. Those of you on Pulse, you'll continue to listen to us as D-Jam and I will take you through the paces. With that, I'm out of here. We'll do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
I feel lonely deep inside, and I wanna talk about it. Can I trust you on my side? Cause I wanna talk about it. Can you keep a secret? Keep a secret. Can you keep a secret? Keep a secret. Can you keep a secret? I wanna trust you. I wanna trust you. So can you keep my secret? You see this road gets tough, gets cold, but still never lose that hope. You got everything it takes and more. You're not alone in this war. Help is on the way every other day. You can lean on my shoulders, cause you are superhuman. You got my trust, and together we can be stronger. So we can talk about it. Yeah, we can talk about it, yeah. So we can talk about it, yeah, let's talk about it, yeah. I feel lonely deep inside, and I wanna talk about it. Can I trust you on my side? Cause I wanna talk about it. Can you keep a secret? Keep a secret. Can you keep a secret? Keep a secret. Can you keep a secret? I wanna trust you. I wanna trust you. So can you keep my secret?